A Minster church honors the first responders that protect the residents of southern Auglaize County. The Calvary Chapel Baptist Church recognized the police, fire, and EMS that serve the Minster and New Bremen area for First Responders Day. Pastor Robert Warnick talked about the sacrifices each of the first responders make for the residents, and they remembered the ultimate sacrifice made by two New Bremen firefighters who died fighting a silo explosion nearly 13 years ago.
We mentioned John Garman and Kenneth Jude. Both those men lost their lives, that night. There's a family now without a husband, without a father, and those types of sacrifices are what they realize they're risking every time they go out. But it heightens the awareness, I think, of the community when we do stuff like this to remind them of the sacrifices that are made.
Congressman Jim Jordan also giving his thanks to the first responders in attendance. He talked about how ordinary people like first responders step up in extraordinary situations, just like police, firefighters, and EMS who helped during the terror attacks that happened 15 years ago.
15 years and 1 week ago, what firefighters, police officers, first responders, and regular ordinary Americans did, the extraordinary and heroic things they did. In New York City, in Washington, D.C., and even though they weren't first responders, the heroic actions of the folks in Pennsylvania on Flight 93. It's always appropriate that you take time to do it. Frankly, we should do it more often. We should be thanking our police and firemen and first responders every single day.
Besides being recognized, the church made donations to each of the organizations.
It's been done in years past. Previous pastors, prior to my coming, have done several of these, but this is probably the biggest, though.
Now, why is it really important for you think you guys step up to really honor the first responders here in Minster and New Bremen?
It's important because they protect us each and every day. Our police officers are keeping us safe. Our fire department's here to help us whenever we have needs. EMTs are always responding to calls. Our desire is to let them know that we care about them and that we wanted to make a donation to their departments and let them know that we're here for them as well and that we do pray for them and care about them.
And now not only are you praying over them, but you're also making this monetary donation to them as well?
Yes, sir. We made a monetary donation to each and every department. We just feel that it's important to support them, not just by prayer, but financially as well. And we know the needs of the departments are great at times, and often, those donations help and go a long way.
Okay. And, especially with communities like New Bremen and Minster, the first responders are very integral, and not only just as certain protected, but as members of the community as well, because everybody just knows everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, and so, do you think it's really important that the community just comes out and say, hey, listen, I know my neighbor does this serve, but what he really actually signed up to do as a first responder, as a firefighter, as an EMT or something?
Follow up with that question. I'm not sure I understood the question. Ask me one more time.
Okay. Basically, maybe a lot of people know somebody that's on the fire department or know somebody that's on the EMT, but they really don't understand the sacrifice that they actually did by signing up and doing it. Do you feel this is a good way to maybe honor that sacrifice that they're making?
Absolutely. I think whenever you share with the folks what sacrifice is really made, when other people are at home sleeping, sometimes these fellows are out sacrificing their time, their day, and listen, they leave their husbands or their wives or their family or their children on our behalf. That is a major sacrifice that they make on our behalf, and so it's hard to understand until you actually get involved with those types of things to really understand the role that they play in our community. But the sacrifice that they made, it's just unbelievable on my part to actually get out of bed at night sometimes and go and make a sacrifice. The two men that we mentioned John Garman and Kenneth Jude. Both those men lost their lives, that night. There's a family now without a husband, without a father, and those types of sacrifices are what they realize they're risking every time they go out. But it heightens the awareness, I think, of the community when we do stuff like this to remind them of the sacrifices that are made.